You know, I have been in the military for just over 16 years, and my first 8 were active duty, and the last 8 have been in this unit. And it's nice to have experienced both because the Guard's really like a family. And my husband and I are both in the unit, and we've been welcomed into the unit. And then to find out that we have such a long history, and we were the first federally recognized Air National Guard unit in the country, and then you look around the country, and from coast to coast, there are Air National Guard units everywhere. And on top of that, the 109th has been involved in all these historical events in the state and in the nation, you know, wars, conflicts, 9/11, humanitarian assistance. And throughout all of that, in the Guard, there are generations of family members who continue to serve. So that alone speaks for itself. So knowing where we come from and what the unit is today and how robust it is, you know, it's an honor to be part of a unit like that, and knowing that we're just going to continue to carry that legacy forward.
Talking about that legacy of the job, what do you think is the hardest part for you and for your fellow airmen?
That's a little bit of a tough question to answer. That varies by the day. I would say being able to be flexible and react to the dynamic situation. The mission set is constantly changing, so we have to evolve our tactics and how we operate. That is a challenge that the airmen are constantly rising to meet. Another challenge to the job is that, you know, sometimes I have to make decisions that aren't popular, but they're for the health of the unit and they're what's best for the mission. So trying to balance those priorities and also get the message out about why that decision was made. So that can be another challenging part.
So as a commander, you're a leader. You're a leader of leaders, your subordinates. What does it take to be that leader in today's military?
Well, one of the things that distinguishes the military from the civilian side is that in the military there's a chain of command. So to be a leader in today's military, you have to be able to give orders and to take orders. In addition, you have to be decisive. So you may not always make the right decision, but you have to make the best decision you can with the information that you have. And if 2020 taught us anything, it's that we can't always prepare for what's coming next, but we have to be flexible enough to adapt and overcome and meet those challenges. So those are some of the things required to be a leader in today's military.
You talked about today, now we're talking a little bit about history, about Ray Miller. You know, you flew quite a different type of aircraft than what you fly here today. What can you tell us about this aircraft, about the C-130 Hercules?
Well, yeah, aviation has changed a lot since 1921. So we're coming up on a century of the 109th is coming up on 100 years on January 17th. And from that first flight of Ray Miller with the Oriole to the C-130s we fly today, and all the airframes that we've flown in between, there have been a ton of changes. You know, navigation used to be you look at the ground and you figure out where you're going. Now we can fly in inclement weather. We have inertial navigation systems. We have global positioning systems. We navigate with satellites. We have all of that integrated into a computer system on our aircraft that we can program and operate with. In addition to that, the other technological advances in recent years that specifically have changed in my lifetime, I used to carry around a 50-pound pubs bag of regulations and flying pubs, and now I have an iPad, so that has been a huge help. So the C-130 of today, it's a lot more technologically advanced, and we have modified it to put all these different systems on board so that we can communicate beyond line of sight with other airframes, real-time information. The great thing about the C-130 as a tactical airlift aircraft is that unlike a lot of other modern aircraft, you really fly the C-130 still, so it's a lot of fun. That's kind of our bread and butter, short field takeoff and landings. We don't even have to have a paved surface to land on. We land on the dirt. We airdrop, we fly formation, we fly single ship. So you really get to fly this aircraft as opposed to a lot of modern aircraft where you are kind of a computer manager and you manage the computer and the plane flies itself. In the C-130, we integrate with a crew of 6 when we deploy, and we all work together to accomplish our very diverse mission set.
This mission set that's been going on here in Minnesota for so many years, what impact do you think the Wing and the Hercules have had in Minnesota?
You know, I'm certainly biased, but I think that Minnesota's lucky to have a C-130 Air National Guard unit because we respond to our federal mission and our state mission. So if the governor calls us up, we are there to respond. So natural disasters, really whatever they need, and we have done those things pretty much every year. You know, we do hurricane relief stuff. We can help with fire, evacuation, transporting. Anything that you can dream up to fit in the back of the C-130, we find a way to get it there, whether it's we take off and land point to point or we throw it out of the back. So we do other things too. You know, the Vikings or the Twins will call us up, we'll do flyovers. We did some of those flyovers kind of as to say thank you to all the healthcare workers earlier this spring, and we got together with the F-16s up in Duluth and did some of those, and that was just kind of our show of support. So in addition to that, the C-130, you know, like I said, there's all the air crew that fly the plane, but there's the maintainers and there's everything that goes into supporting the mission, and those people also live and work in the community. So I don't think that our impact can be overstated.
You hold a unique distinction. You are the first woman to command this unit. What does that mean to you?
You know, that's a funny question for me to answer because I've been female my whole life, so that's pretty normal for me. But as far as being the commander of the 109th Airlift Squadron, I just happen to be the person in this seat at this moment in our unit's history. But what I can tell you is that with all the conflict in the world and all the divisions in our nation right now, we have people in our unit with diverse backgrounds and all sorts of differing opinions, and we come together to accomplish our mission. And I feel very fortunate to be part of a unit that has that common ground. And I work with all these wonderfully talented airmen who, for a lot of these people, this is their second job, and they have civilian jobs and families and lives. And all I get from them is yes. They raise their hand, they say yes, they never give up, and no matter what obstacles are out there, they work to overcome them. So it makes me hopeful for the future and excited to continue with our second century of aviation in the 109th.
So it's been 100 years. This is 2020, 2021. 2020 was a pretty interesting year. Can you tell me a little bit about, what did your airmen do to support, Minnesota domestic operations?
Yeah, 2020 was interesting. When we kicked off this year, our unit was deployed. So the 109th was actually overseas and deployed since 2019. We came back in the March timeframe, and that's really when the pandemic kind of fully impacted the U.S. and things started to lock down. So right away, we came home to lockdowns, and we had to adjust the way that we do training. And then after that, in the spring, we were called to state active duty. The governor activated the entire Minnesota National Guard, Army and Air. So we answered that call and we responded to that. And we supported the domestic operations, and we're on standby. We're always planning and ready for any contingencies that the governor needs. And then we've been doing some alert missions as well for civil disturbance or whatever Guard Bureau calls upon us to do. So we have done some of those domestic operations as well as federal ones over the last 8 months.
So that's 2020. What do you expect out of 2021? What are you looking forward to?
Well, there's never a dull moment. We have a lot on the books for this year. We have kind of a big exercises every couple months. Starting in February, we do a big unit move out to Yuma Proving Grounds in Yuma, Arizona. We capitalize on the good weather out there, and we take about 150 people, maintenance, operations, and support agencies, and we go out there and we do a lot of training. And then in March, we have a NORAD exercise, so that will be a little bit of international. More details to come on that as we go. And then we have another big exercise to Estonia and a few other countries called Swift Response that we're going to do in May. And in between that, we have a lot of our, what we would call our normal day-to-day flying around the flagpole, as well as drop-in Army guys and shorter missions. So just up through June, we have a jam-packed schedule, but we have a busy ops tempo, and that's kind of normal for us. So it's going to be an interesting 2021, and it's off to a good start so far.
You said you've been in for 16 years?
I have, yep.
Thinking about those 16 years, about your career, all the time that you've spent in there, if you had an opportunity to talk to a young person today who's thinking, maybe I could be an airman, maybe I could join the military, what would you tell them?
Well, I would say that especially if you don't know what you want to do, the military is kind of a good option. I would encourage them to join the Guard, though. Having done active duty in the Guard, it really depends on what you want out of life. But I can say, having done both, that in the National Guard, it's more of a family, and really that's how we treat it here in this unit, lifelong friendships. And then the other thing about it is you just have a lot more say in your life. And we get a lot of people who enlist, they get college paid for, and then they commission later, or they stay enlisted. Both are great career opportunities. So I would say if you're even thinking about it, at least try an enlistment term and just give it a shot. If you don't know what you want to do, the military helps hone you and give you guidance and direction. And there's a lot of really good benefits that you get from being a part of this organization.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nope.
About the 100th?
This Sunday, the 17th of January, is 100 years of aviation, and We have come a long way since 1921, both in safety, technology, the mission set, the airframes that we fly, and the unit's grown. And we're just looking forward to the next century of aviation in the 109th.